What's up, guys? It's Bumpkins, and I'm back with another episode slash issue, whatever, of Comics Daily Weekly. This is issue number 15, talking about Marvel Comics that came out in October 1967. If you're new to the stream, new to the channel, new to the video, whatever, Comics Daily Weekly is a weekly video podcast stream kind of thing that I do where I talk about all of the Silver Age Marvel comics. Hey, Splash Page Comics, how's it going, man? I talk about all of the Silver Age Marvel comics that I read every week, once a day, every day, every week. Every week in our time, I read a month's worth of comics that came out back then. So, like I said, this week we're talking about comics from October 1967. Last week I talked about comics from the Marvel comics from September 1967. And next week we'll be doing November 1967. So, basically experiencing, or the idea is that we'll be experiencing these comics as they came out. We can identify trends and see, new artists come on, new characters get introduced, new stories from the beginning, that kind of stuff. And I'm doing something a little bit differently this time. This is actually the first time I've ever streamed directly to YouTube. Up until now, for the last 14 weeks, I've streamed to my Twitch channel and then just moved it over to YouTube later. And I just wanted to try YouTube because I felt like YouTube is a better place for this kind of stuff rather than Twitch. I just kind of think of Twitch as more like gameplay and things like that, although I know it's not, but I think about Twitch more for, I go to Twitch for games, but I come to YouTube for stuff like this. I just thought I'd give it a shot, still experimenting. I appreciate it, Splash Space. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. But yeah, so trying it out on YouTube, still trying to figure this out. Also, something else I want to do differently this week as opposed to all the other weeks is I want to try to go a little bit shorter. So all of the other episodes of this have been like an hour and a half. And I'm not sure that anybody wants to watch an hour and a half of me talking about comic books. So instead of going like page by page, talking about every single thing that happens on every page, I really just want to talk about the story as we page through them. I'll tell you what the story is about. I'll tell you if anything notable happens, if new artist creators, new characters, first appearances, that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna try that. I said that last week. I've said that every week that I'm gonna try to go shorter. We'll see. I've already gone on for like 10 minutes already. But let me give you the comics that we're going to talk about real quick today. So again, October 1967. Today I'm going to be talking about Amazing Spider-Man 53, which you see right here. Tales of Suspense number 94. Daredevil number 33. Avengers number 45. Strange Tales number 161. And Fantastic Four number 67. Now, that's certainly not all of the Marvel comics that came out back in October of 67. Those are just the ones that I'm reading. I just didn't really feel like I wanted to read all of them, so I'm not reading things like X-Men right now, Thor, Tales to Astonish. There's a few things I'm not reading just because I just didn't feel like it. Nothing against them, I just didn't feel like it. So I do actually have a spreadsheet where you can see my list of comics that I'm going to read. I've got it planned out all the way for the next 2 years. Because I'm that kind of nerd, so I have one of those as well. I think in my Twitter bio there's a link to it. I'm pretty sure there's a pinned tweet also. But anyway, enough rambling. Let's get into it because this one is a cool story. I was excited to get to this one. So Amazing Spider-Man number 53. Doc Ock is back. We haven't actually seen Doc Ock in 20 issues. I believe it was exactly 20. I think 33 was the last time we saw him. So we haven't seen him in 20 issues, and we haven't seen him at all since John Romita took over the book. So it's cool to get Doc Ock back and John Romita drawing him. This is kind of a classic story, but it's not one of the most classic stories that people think of when you think about classic Spider-Man stories. But everybody knows this one because this is we'll get to it in a minute. More of it happens next issue 54, which I read yesterday and posted about yesterday. So we'll get to it in a minute. But basically, the idea behind... hang on, let me get over here. There we go. So the idea behind this one is that Dr. Octopus is back after seeing defeat at the hands of Spider-Man 20 issues ago. And basically, he wants to, just like every other villain in Marvel Comics in the Silver Age, in the 60s, they want to steal some kind of military equipment, either to help them defeat a hero or to sell to somebody else so that they can then fund some other criminal enterprise. And that's exactly what Doc Ock wants to do here. He wants to steal military equipment so that he can sell it, so that he can then fund his other criminal activities. I don't know why he can't just use the weapon that he's stealing, but maybe that just doesn't fit inside of his plan. So not only do we get Doc Ock after 20 issues, but this issue is really fun. I'm going to go backwards a little bit because we get an extended look at Peter and Gwen hanging out together. We get a little bit more of Mary Jane, Harry, Flash, and we also get some. This is the most story we've ever gotten of Professor Miles Warren. Remember, I told you guys to keep your eye on him. I kind of don't trust that guy, and we'll see in several years whenever we get to the mid-70s. We'll see why. But actually, isn't it around issue 90? So that means 30 weeks? I can't quite remember the numbers. But so you guys know that if you've seen any of these videos before, you guys know that my favorite parts of these old issues aren't the fighting and the villains versus Spider-Man and all that. My favorite parts are Peter hanging out with his friends. Mary Jane, Gwen, Harry, Flash, Betty and Ned, and even Jonah Jameson and all those guys. So that's my favorite part of all these issues, is seeing him interact with the supporting cast. And we get a little bit more of that in this issue. So one other subplot in this issue that is going to carry on through is Harry has a bone to pick with Peter. Harry's not real happy with Peter, and we don't really know why specifically, but we pretty much think that it has to do with the fact that Peter's just never around. Peter's always staying very closed off, very guarded. There's a scene in next issue 54 where he talks about Peter locking everything up because he doesn't trust Harry, or Harry thinks he doesn't trust him. So Harry's got a little bit of a beef with Peter in this issue that we'll see more of over the next few issues. Flash is back. He and Peter jaw at each other a little bit more. But what leads Peter and Gwen and Professor Warren into conflict with Dr. Octopus is that they're actually going to this exhibit where this military equipment is being held, because that's always how it happens, right? And right here, this is the cool part. This is our first Doc Ock. Wait a minute. I can't zoom in on him quite exactly. There he is. Our first, right here, this panel is our first Doc Ock in 20 issues. So super cool to see him. I didn't realize how much I loved Doc Ock until he came back after a long time. But no problem. He steals the equipment, He's holding off the cost, but Spider-Man comes in, and actually Spider-Man defeats him pretty handily. And he actually gets the military equipment back fairly early in the issue, right? We're on page 12 here, and it's purple. I don't know why the military equipment has to be purple, but that's it, right? You think that's it? So we recount a little bit of Spider-Man's last encounter with Doc Ock. And like I said, we get more interaction with Peter and the gang, which is really cool. So one big thing, and you can see it right here, and this is going to come into play, and this is actually kind of what makes this story really fun and kind of wacky, but also a classic, is that Aunt May and Anna Watson have decided to rent out their extra room to make a little bit more money. So they're basically sort of like a B&B, not really that extravagant, but they're going to take in a boarder, as they say. So they put an ad in the paper. They are going to take in a new resident in their spare bedroom in their home. Keep that in mind. Put a pin in that, because we're going to talk about that quite a bit. Printer had to sell in purple ink that much. It has to be, right? Because, I mean, look at that right here. That's ridiculous, right? It's just a big purple engine block is what it looks like. It's weird. I love the 60s, man. One panel, the background is all red. The next panel, the background is all yellow. Oh man, the days of not having a draw background. So during their first encounter, when Doc Ock was trying to steal that equipment, Peter tagged him with a spider tracer, which we haven't seen those in quite a while as well. Manages to track him back to his secret hideout, but Ock had found the spider tracer, so he knew that he was luring Spider-Man in, basically. They fight a little bit more. Actually, I don't think they fight at all. But Doc does rig his base to explode. Now, this is important, too. So Doc Ock rigs his secret base to explode when Spider-Man gets there. Spider-Man's spider sense tips him off. He gets out of the way. But why that's important is the last panel right here. Let me blow that up for you. Let me back up. So Spider-Man doesn't know where Doc Ock went, right? And they kind of end this pretty, like if I were reading this back in October of 67, I would have thought that this very last panel right here was super cool. Oh man, Doc Ock found the classified ad of Aunt May's spare bedroom. Holy cow, what does that mean, right? What is that? What is going to happen there? So that's where this issue leaves off. I won't talk too much about next issue because this week this episode is for this week for this issue, but you can imagine what happens from here. So this is actually going to lead into a sort of a larger. I don't know if it's really. I wouldn't really call it consecutive issues, but it leads into a larger story arc with Doc Ock and Aunt May. That's still just, to me, one of the most bizarre storylines in all of Silver Age comics. So we will get to that story as we read through these. But this was a really fun issue because it's classic Spidey versus Doc Ock, John Romita Jr. We get extra Gwen Stacy, extra Miles Warren. We get a few extra panels of Mary Jane Flash. Harry's got something stuck in his craw. It's just, there's a lot going on here. And this is like the really, really fun era of Spider-Man. Actually, I mean, it's all really fun, but things are really starting to ramp up and get fun with Spider-Man. This is my number one favorite title to read every week. It has been since the beginning, not only because Spider-Man is my favorite character of all time, but just these stories are way fun. These stories are so much fun. So more on that next issue, but we're going to move on to Tales of Suspense number 94. Now, this is a double feature, as always, between Captain America and Iron Man. After this one, we only have like 5 more issues of it being a double feature between Cap and Iron Man before Iron Man's going to split off into his own title with Iron Man number 1. Captain America is going to continue this numbering. So it's going to go into number 100, but it's going to be just retitled to Captain America. So it's going to be a Captain America comic continuing on with number 100. Iron Man's going to get his own book starting with number 1, and we will get to those issues. It's either the very last week of this year or maybe January of next year is when we will hit both of those. So those are going to be pretty fun. So in the Iron Man side of this story, this is sort of the end of a 3-parter. Iron Man was sent to Vietnam by the military to sneak into this castle. You guys know that I love superheroes slinking around in castles. He was sent to this castle in Vietnam to destroy a weapon that they thought this scientist named Half-Face was making. Iron Man gets in, and he's met by none other than Titanium Man, who, well, we didn't think he was dead, obviously, but, it was made to look like he was dispatched of several issues ago. Half-Face actually managed to save him, fix him up. And so last issue was just a big battle between Iron Man and Titanium Man. And this one's more of the same, just the end of that battle, right? Now, also in last issue, we learned that Half-Face's plan for Titanium Man was to attack a Vietnamese village and then blame it on the Americans to sort of sow discord between the two countries. And again, this was written in 1967, so some of this stuff is weird to talk about nowadays, but I'm just going over the story as it was presented back in the day, right? So, but this story is just more of the same, more of Iron Man versus Titanium Man. Titanium Man is, commencing with his attack on the village, led by Half-Face. Now, one thing that's weird about this, and we will get to it here at the end, is that Titanium Man almost doesn't seem like Titanium Man isn't a robot, right? He's a guy in a suit of armor, but yet Titanium Man, or Half-Face, is controlling him, like right here. Like, now strike, I command you. Well, like, there's a guy in a suit. It's not a robot that you're remote controlling, so I don't really understand that. And I bring that up because we're going to get to the end here in a second. Titanium Man is just tearing up this village, right? In the middle of this story, we do get we saw this last issue as well. We do get a mysterious visitor. Has popped up in front of Stark Industries a couple times now, looking for Tony Stark. Of course, Tony Stark's not there. One time he left. This time he gasses the guard and jumps over the wall. That does get revealed next issue, and it was a little bit silly. I thought, I thought it was going to be a little bit more than what it was, but we'll talk about that next week. Meanwhile, Iron Man and Titanium Man are fighting in this village, doing what they do. Titanium Man's trying to destroy it. Iron Man's trying to stop him until here. This is the turning point. Half-Face actually sees his wife and son, his son who he calls Boy Child. Last issue it was Man Child, which is hilarious. But this basically flips a switch in him that says, oh wait, I can't do this. This is where my wife and my son live. I can't have this village destroyed. So he actually just he turns off Titanium Man, I guess, or not turns him off, but makes him short circuit or whatever it is right here, which is good, which is timely because Titanium Man is about to smash Iron Man for good, but it's just weird because like I said, Titanium Man, there's a guy in a suit, and Half-Face is just can just short circuit him like that, and then because he did that, all is forgiven, right? It was not magic. I have destroyed my greatest creation. No longer do I serve those who are oppressors. From this moment on, I fight for freedom, as do those whom I love. And that's it. So, it was a fun, action-packed story. Iron Man versus Titanium Man is really fun. But nothing really notable here. Just a 3-part story. And Half-Face at the end gets away scot-free just because he decided to do the right thing at the end. No consequences whatsoever. So anyway, the Captain America story, though, is really cool because this is the first appearance, the first actual appearance of MODOK. And we don't get much of him, though, which is kind of weird. He only shows up in a few panels. Last issue, they actually mentioned MODOK, but this is the first issue where we see him. So Cap was captured by AIM last issue. He went there to rescue the mysterious female S.H.I.E.L.D. agent whose name us in 1967 had not yet learned, but it's Agent 13 Sharon Carter. We know that. We know that in 2020, right? And it's so silly because even in next issue, which I read and posted about today, Cap and I'll just call her Agent 13. Hit me up on IG Splash Trades. Hey man, sure will. Appreciate it. Even next issue, which I read today, Cap and Agent 13 actually even go out to dinner, and she still doesn't tell him her name. What? I don't know why. I mean, I guess I know why, because, it's I guess she's just trying to figure out how to say, by the way, I'm your love, Peggy Carter's niece, granddaughter in the movies, niece in the comics. But, so I guess it's a hard thing to say, but just say it already, instead of mention every time they interact, they mention how he doesn't know her name, but just do it, rip the Band-Aid off. Anyway, so Cap has been captured by AIM, doesn't last long. He's able to get his shield back and he dispatches them, but boom, right here, MODOK in all his, wait a minute, hold on, wait a second. It won't let me, hold on, let me see if I can zoom. Well, you get the picture. We'll go back to this. I couldn't really zoom the way I wanted to. But right there's MODOK, first appearance. So that's pretty cool. He has Agent 13 held captive. And, they tussle a little bit. You wouldn't think that Cap and, he wouldn't think that MODOK would present that much of a fight for Cap. But I guess he does because of his mind beams or whatever they say. What's interesting here in this battle is that a lot of these AIM operatives don't want to be under MODOK, right? They don't really know why they're following him. And so, but they're also scared to have, stage an uprising against him. So they basically just have Cap do their work for them. They throw Cap in there and say, he's Captain America, he's going to beat MODOK, don't worry about it, he's going to get rid of MODOK for us. So they battle, and that's actually kind of what happens. Is the AIM operatives actually sort of rush in like they are going to dispatch of Cap. Like right here, they looks like they're going to shoot him in the back, but they're actually there to destroy MODOK and probably Cap. Like they probably wouldn't mind if they took down Cap in the process, right? But they destroy supposedly. There's a big explosion, and they get MODOK as well. So it's kind of like their way out, basically, right? Is they want to get out from under MODOK's thumb, but they want to make it look like they're not trying to leave. So mission accomplished, I guess. But and then after that, Cap just takes out the rest of the riffraff so that he and Agent 13 can get out. And that's pretty much it. So that is the end of this. I think this one lasted for 3 issues as well. Oh, I did forget about this. At the end, MODOK is able to sort of upload his mind into this satellite. So, again, reading this in 1967, I would think, okay, maybe he's not dead because he beamed his mind into this satellite. Obviously, we know he's going to come back a whole bunch of times. But this was another 3-part story that is wrapping up here. So we get a whole new one next issue. So this one was a fun issue. It was fun versus Iron Man versus Titanium action. But first appearance of MODOK, super cool. And I actually thought that he looked a little bit weirder in his first appearance than he does now. But he looks pretty much the same. So I learned something new that day. So this was a good issue of Tales of Suspense. More to come next week. We're going to move on to Daredevil number 33. And you guys know that I haven't been loving Daredevil. Daredevil lately has been the book of bad decisions. The book where every character in the book makes bad decisions. And let me double check my notes here on this one. This one starts out really rough, gets a little bit better as it goes through. But the reason it starts rough is because, Beetle is trying to steal rob an armored truck, and Daredevil just happens to be swinging by. So they tussle a little bit. But this whole issue takes place on a train. No, it doesn't. Scratch that. Part of the issue takes place on a train. That's what helps them get to where this mountainous desert area, even though I think they're going up to Canada, I think is what they said, where they said they're going to go. But this issue starts off real bad because, oh my gosh, we get more Mike Murdock, who I can't stand. And it's so... So, there was the whole thing over the last couple of issues where Daredevil lost his extrasensory abilities, right? And he was basically just a normal blind person who didn't have any extrasensory abilities. And rather than, Book of Bad Decisions, Matt Murdock decides to play Mike Murdock, who also just so happened to lose his sight out of nowhere. And of course, Foggy and Karen bought it. And then in this one, Mike Murdock then says, never mind, I got my sight back. And Karen says, oh, I think it's simply wonderful that your eyesight returned to you in time to defeat that horrible Hyde and a snake-like partner. I'm talking about some stuff that happened last issue. And, oh my gosh, this is just, the writing in this is so bad. I love Stan Lee so much. He created all of my favorite characters, or most of them, or a lot of them. But I don't know if he really is writing Daredevil or not. But this book is just not good. It's just not. So it's Montreal that they want to go. So Mike Murdock suggests that he, Karen, and Foggy take a vacation to Montreal on a train. The whole reason he does this is because he makes this wild assumption that the Beetle is going to rob the train because there's some jewels on it. He suggests that Matt Murdock stay behind and do all the office work, right? So Karen and Foggy agree to go on this cockamamie trip to Canada and to leave Matt behind all by himself. And there's even a panel, and I called this out on Twitter. Foggy even says, if only, or maybe it's either Foggy or Karen, I'm not sure. If only Matt could be here with us. It just doesn't seem right for us to be taking this little vacation without him, especially when he's the one who does most of our law work. Which is crazy because Matt is never in the office, right? Matt is always taking the day off, or he's always saying, it's a good thing my caseload is light so I can take the day off and do some daredeviling, or whatever. But it's just, oh man, it's just so bad. So, you know that wild assumption that Mike Murdock made that the Beetle was going to rob these jewels on the train? He was right. Luckily, he was right. Otherwise, they would have been going to Montreal for completely nothing. So, Beetle robs the train, and from there, it's just a fight between Mike and... Or, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm doing it too. Mike. Between Daredevil and the Beetle. It is kind of cool because it's always kind of neat to see superheroes in their non-native environments, right? So, they're swinging through the mountains, right? Beetle can fly, so he's got a little bit of an advantage. But I mean, that's the rest of the issue is just them fighting Matt Murdock, Daredevil, trying to get these gems back from the Beetle. Actually, I don't remember how this one ends. Oh, that's right. So he finally manages to make it to this town, and he's like, "Hey guys, have you guys seen the Beetle? I'm looking for this bad dude." Turns out the guys in this little town are working for the Beetle, as we see right here. And that's cliffhanger. So, obviously Daredevil's going to get out of it pretty easy. I don't know what's so special about this town. I don't know why Beetle is holed up here, but that's pretty much it. So, just more. I do know that there's an issue of Daredevil coming up where on the cover it says something about Mike Murdock must die. I cannot wait to get there because I can't wait to get rid of Mike Murdock. I cannot even believe that Mike Murdock has lasted as long. I thought it was just going to be like a flash in the pan, quick little story beat, but no. So that's it. I mean, that's it for this one. It was okay. Daredevil versus Beetle in the mountains, fine, but there was the circumstances to which they got to that place, or to which led them to that place, just were pretty silly. But who knows? Maybe it'll get better. It's got to get better at some point, right? So Avengers number 45 is pretty cool because it's the return of the Super Adaptoid, which we last saw in, I don't remember the number, but we last saw in Tales of Suspense in the Captain America stories. Super Adaptoid being, he did start out as the Adaptoid, an android created by AIM that could, just like all other androids in the 60s, an android that could sort of, not really absorb, but like take on the abilities of anybody he encounters. As you can see here, he's giant, and he's got wings. He's got the Hawkeye mask, because when you take on the abilities of when you take on the abilities of heroes, you also have to take on parts of their costume. What's up, Hero? How's it going, man? Yeah, the Marvel version of Amazo is actually a fantastic way to put it. So, but I liked that story in Tales of Suspense, Cap versus the Super Adaptoid. I thought that was really fun, and I was looking forward to him being in this issue as well. So this was pretty fun, but it was also a little bit disappointing because the Avengers still aren't working as a team. They've been a team for 45 issues, and they still have trouble working together as a team, right? Every issue where they face off against anybody, one of the Avengers say, stand back. I'm the only one that can do this because the bad guy is giant. So me, Goliath, is the only one who can stop him. But then another Avenger says, no, stay back. This is a job for me only. Like, they aren't working together as a team, and it's so frustrating. So, what leads them here, though? What leads the Super... And the Super Adaptoid's only motivation in this issue is to continue his mission that he was programmed for, which is to destroy Captain America. Like, it's his only motivation. So that's the only reason the super adaptoid is doing any of this stuff, right? Well, the setting for this is a big celebration of the Avengers. I can't just for all the stuff. Avenger Day is what they call it, right? So it's a big celebration of the Avengers in the park, Central Park. And, all the Avengers are there. There's a big crowd of people. It's a big celebration, right? It's a big fun day. And that's where the Super Adaptoid pops up. And that's the whole thing. That this whole issue is a fight between the Avengers and the Super Adaptoid. Thor and Iron Man are in it in the beginning, but they fly away. They leave. So it's the rest of the Avengers. The most notable thing in this issue, and we don't even get to it till the end, but we'll go ahead and talk about it, is in this issue, Hercules becomes an official member of the Avengers. So that he's been in this book for, 10 issues now? Maybe almost 10 issues. He's been hanging out with them on all their adventures, but he's not an official member of the team. He's just been like crashing on their couch because he's been exiled from Olympus for a year. In this issue, they make him an official member of the team. Actually, I thought that was at the end, it's right here. I'm sorry. It's in the beginning. I can't quite remember the order of events sometimes. Originally, we intended to bestow this honor upon two, but the lovely Black Widow has stated that she will fight in costume no more. So, what do you say, Hercules? You want to be a full-fledged Avenger? He says, that sounds awesome. Thanks. And that's it. So that's, they're using this ceremony as a way to induct him into the Avengers as well. But the rest of the issue is just the Avengers fighting the Super Adaptoid, basically one at a time, which is ridiculous since the Super Adaptoid can mimic the abilities of the Avengers of more than one Avenger at a time, right? So, for example, in this panel, he shrank down like Ant-Man and is also using Iron Man's repulsor blast. So he can, and here's the costume too. He can take on the abilities of Captain America. So he has to have the striped midriff, the wings on the helmet, that kind of thing. Right, because you just have to look the part, right, when you're mimicking a hero. It's funny because for several panels, Goliath / Ant-Man and Wasp are fighting the Super Adaptoid, and they're like ant-sized, and the rest of the Avengers are just like standing around him, and the cops come rushing over, and they're like, no, don't move. They're fighting somewhere on the ground, but we can't see him. But don't move because you might squish him. You might step on him, right? So, early Taskmaster, that's a good way to well, sort of. Taskmaster can't, actual fire repulsor beams out of his hand, right? Or fly, or that kind of stuff, right? What powers of Captain America are there to copy? Well, yeah, just his strength, his agility, that kind of thing. Well, that's a good point. It always has Thor's powers too. And I would say his strategic mind, but when he popped up in Tales of Suspense, whatever issue that was, that's how Cap was actually able to beat him, because physically he was Captain America's equal, but he did not, I don't know if he could not or he just did not adapt Captain America's strategic thinking. So Captain America was able to out-strategize him. They were a match for each other physically, but Cap outthought him, basically. So maybe that, I don't know. That's a good question, though. I mean, if you can mimic Thor, then what else do you need to do, right? But Splash Page, yeah, that's a good point. He's sort of like Taskmaster, but he can actually mimic the actual powers, whereas Taskmaster could just mimic fighting styles and skills bow and arrow, shield sling, and sword play, whatever. But so they're fighting on the ground. Don't you're gonna squish them? Stop! Eventually, they grow back up to size again. But yeah, it's just this whole thing is them. See right here. This is the perfect example. Heads up, Avengers! Our nutty playmate's on his feet again, and he's heading towards us like a runaway steamroller. Quicksilver, out of my way, Hawkeye. Let me see what my speed can do against him. Negative, Sonny. He's waving a bow and arrow at us, so it's definitely Brother Hawkeye's show. Just freaking take him on together, right? I mean, it's especially if he's using multiple powers on you at a time, then work as a team, use multiple powers on him. So it's bizarre. I don't know why the Avengers are like that. In last issue, Hawkeye was captured, and he says, "It's over for me. I just hope the Avengers don't come to help." I can't stand that. Act like a team, I really don't like that. It's not as prevalent in today's comics, but it happens a lot back in the day, and it's irritating. And Hercules goes to town on him, which is a pretty cool fight. I really like Hercules a lot, more than I thought I would. I mean, I've read him over the years. He was in the Avengers in the '90s with the mullet and the leather jacket and all that stuff. So I liked him back then, but I just like him. I think he's cool. But the way they are able to dispatch of Super Adaptoid is they actually make him mimic more than 2 powers at a time, and he basically short circuits. So right here, I mean, he short circuits, right? Because he tries to call upon too many abilities all at once, and it overloads him. Seems pretty simple, right? So pretty cool. Hercules gets inaugurated into the Avengers. This was a cool, one and done issue. Not bad, certainly not as bad as most of the issues of Avengers have been up to this point. But it was all right. I mean, this wasn't too bad. And one and done, and we'll see what comes next. So we're going to move on to Strange Tales, excuse me, number 161. This story is cool. So this continues the last issue where Cap brought in Jimmy Woo to help Nick Fury figure out Nick Fury figure out who it was that he and Captain America were fighting at one point. So all of last issue and most of this issue actually occurs via a flashback. So the battle that we see through here is actually just a flashback story that Nick Fury is telling Jimmy Woo. Real quick, too, in case you don't know, Strange Tales is another double issue between Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Doctor Strange. I'm only reading the Nick Fury piece of it, just because when I started reading this, I just felt like reading some like spy espionage type stuff. Nothing against Doctor Strange. I just felt like, reading this. After this, we only have like 6 or 7 more issues of Nick Fury before he exits the book. He will then transition into a Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. title. I think it's pretty immediate after 168 is the last one that he's in here. I think it's pretty immediate after that, but the Marvel Unlimited app doesn't have all those, so I'll probably read like number 1. I want to read them in order, and I think they only have like 1, 2, 4, and something else. So, we'll see. We'll get there. But, so yeah. So this just continues the flashback that Nick Fury is telling Jimmy Woo. We do get a cool guest appearance by Reed Richards and Ben Grimm, who, if you remember in last issue, Cap had to go get help. He strapped on like this anti-gravity vest and took off in the air, and the thing messed up like halfway through, and he was plummeting to his death. That's the problem with flashbacks, though, is that the character lived, obviously. So Reed and Ben managed to save him, and Cap so I was actually, after having read Avengers, where nobody wants any help, I was actually happy to see that Cap did ask Reed and Ben for help stopping these creatures. Meanwhile, while he's doing that, Nick Fury is fighting these strange beings on the top of the Statue of Liberty. So if you remember the last panel of last issue, he gets knocked off the torch in the Statue of Liberty, and he's falling. He actually manages to grab on to the one of the I don't want to call them horns, the spikes or the tiara of the Statue of Liberty. And I realize that this can make for a pretty awful gif later. So I'm going to stop doing that. But yeah, so he manages. This reminded me of the first X-Men movie from 2000 when Wolverine swung around like that. So so Nick Fury, I mean, he's awesome, right? He's taking these guys down, fighting this whole group by himself the same way he fought Hydra all by himself for the most part 2 issues ago. Meanwhile, Cap's getting help from Reed Richards, and they never learn. In this flashback, they do defeat these beings. I don't want to call them people, I guess. I'm not real sure. Also, check this out. Jim Steranko doing his thing. Classic Cap and Nick Fury team up. That's awesome, right? Versus all these weird people. I don't know who they are. But I don't know who they are, and Cap and Fury managed to defeat them as well, but they don't know who they are either, right? Well, we get a little bit of a peek into that. The Yellow Claw, who have a history with Jimmy Woo from when Jimmy Woo actually first appeared, like in the 50s, I think under Atlas Comics. Before Marvel was Marvel and Fantastic Four in 1961. I don't know the history of that too well, but Jimmy Woo says there's only one man who's capable of such an incredible assault. The one you seek is called the Yellow Claw. So this is cool. So this is like sort of like another. I know the name, but I just don't know the history. But it looks like maybe we're looking at another AIM/Hydra organization. I know this just one guy, but he's talking to Suwon, and who was the other guy? I don't know who these people are, but it's awesome, right? So it would be cool if Strange Tales, like, because the story with Hydra and Baron von Strucker and all that stuff that lasted for several issues. So it would be cool if Strange Tales, like, this was its final story to tell, is this big Yellow Claw story. I don't really know much about these characters or who they are or what they're going to do, but man, I just think it's really cool. Like, I'm getting a kick out of this. So, and I even posted this page on Twitter and just said, I'm all in for whatever this story brings. I don't know what's going to happen, but this looks super cool. So, Cap and Nick Fury did manage to defeat whoever that was at the Statue of Liberty, but they have no idea who they were, how they were able to do what they were doing, and if they're going to show back up. And apparently they are. So yeah, that's really cool. I don't know that Cap's going to be part of this ongoing story, but it doesn't matter because it's going to be cool. Nick Fury's awesome, and I can't wait to see what happens. So more to come on that next week. I guess we'll learn a little bit more. But we're going to move on to our final title of the week, Fantastic Four number 67. Now, this is a continuation of, and if you guys know anything about who's in the cocoon, or whose cocoon that is, featuring the power of him, this is a big issue, right? So, and we'll get to that in a minute. So last issue, Alicia Masters was captured. She wasn't captured. She was 2 issues ago, while the Fantastic Four were fighting Ronin inside of a cone in the middle of the street, this strange person just appeared in Alicia Masters' apartment and took her with him. They just walked through a wall and vanished, right? Yellow Claw was a robot imposter Dr. Doom created? Was he? Okay. Well, I guess we'll get there. Because Dr. Doom wasn't around until after this, after the 60s, Fantastic Four, whatever, number 4 was it? So I guess we'll get to that point, because I don't know anything about Yellow Claw other than he's tied up with Jimmy Woo. So I can't wait to read it. So last issue we saw that the person who not abducted Alicia, but took her, was a group of scientists in this place called the Citadel of Science, and they were this group of scientists that decided to fake their own deaths so that they could go hide away in one of the most remote parts of the planet and work on a way to make humanity better. The way they were going to do that is creating life, the perfect human, But when they did that, this being that they created was so powerful. He emitted such power that they couldn't even see him, right? They couldn't. So they had to go get Alicia because she's blind and she's one of the best sculptors in the world and she can sculpt anything just by feeling it. So they wanted her help to approach this being that they created so she could sculpt an image of him and see what he looked like. Well, we didn't get that last issue, but we do get that this issue. So, meanwhile, Ben is flipping out, doesn't know where Alicia is, and Reed is working on a way to get to her. So Reed actually manages to create a replica of their bracelet, whatever, armband that the guy was wearing, and that actually allows them to teleport, for all intents and purposes, into the Citadel of Science. While he's working on that, one of the scientists and Alicia are actually encountering this strange being, and it seems like he's attacking them, right? But we'll get to that in a minute. Also, more Kirby doing Kirby things, Jack Kirby doing Jack Kirby things. Awesome, just crazy looking bases and equipment, machinery, and all this stuff. Jack Kirby's just amazing. We get more with Johnny and Crystal. That doesn't really amount to much of anything. But Reed almost has it figured out how he can get to Alicia. Meanwhile, Alicia, here we go, right here. So this is the cocoon, right? And this is a big deal. So Alicia actually manages to find her way to the cocoon, and it's actually talking to her. So Alicia realizes that this being actually isn't really evil or dangerous. He's actually kind of scared and confused. And so Adam Warlock, yes, actually you are correct, hero. So they don't get to that. He's not known as Adam Warlock for another, I want to say several years from where we are here. But yes, him first. This is him, exactly. So, and we're going to get there. I knew this was coming, but it was super cool to see it because I've never read this. I've never read Adam Warlock's origin. I know the story. I never read it. So, and that's part of the reason I'm reading these week to week, every day, week to week, is because I want to read all these stories that I've never read and experience them, like I said, as they came out. So if I'm sitting in October 1967, I want to read this story as it came out and wonder who these characters are and who this golden-skinned him character is. I mean, he looks pretty cool. So Reed is actually able to get Johnny and Ben into the Citadel of Science, and they fight with the scientists there because they don't really know what's going on. Meanwhile, Alicia tries to calm him down, right? So, just basically the rest of this is just a fight. The good part is right at the end, we get right here. This is the good part. So that's it. That's the first true appearance of Adam Warlock. Although we don't know him as Adam Warlock, and we won't know him as Adam Warlock for a long time from this point. But that's it, right? So that's pretty cool. Adam Warlock is a pretty big deal. He's gonna lead into Infinity stuff and all that. I don't know. I know he's more than just Infinity Stones and things like that. But I associate from when I was reading in the '90s. I associate Adam Warlock with Infinity Stones and Thanos and Infinity Gauntlet and all that stuff. So it's been 30 years since I've read these books. How old and have to reread them? Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, I just wanted to read these, and I don't love these Silver Age books. I'd rather get to the Bronze Age. So, like, once we hit the 70s, that's when I think it really, in my opinion, that's when it really picks up. That's when the stories get really good. That's when we get a lot of the characters that we know today. So I'm not loving the Silver Age except for some, but it is cool to see stories like this, him, Adam Warlock, and I'm going to read more whenever we get to that point. I'll definitely pick up some more stories, some more issues, some more titles with Adam Warlock, but that's right there. That's the first appearance of him. So basically, the origin of Adam Warlock is that these scientists created him to be the perfect being, since humanity was so flawed, right? 1974, when I pulled the first book off the spinner, that's awesome. I read comics off and on when I was a kid. So I was born in 79, and I read comics just off and on through the 80s. But I really started collecting in 1990 or 90, I think it was 91, right before the Image thing. That was in like 91, 92. It was right before Image hit big. So, we're talking about Jim Lee's X-Men #2 is one of my first comics that I bought once I had decided to actually collect them and buy them every week and read them. Amazing Spider-Man #351 was my first, not my first Spider-Man comic, but my first Spider-Man comic that I bought once I decided I actually wanted to get into comics, learn about them, read them every week, go to a comic book store and buy them. I bought plenty off of a spinner rack as well, but that's when I started going to my comic book store also getting some. So that was 91, I believe. So, but of course I went back, read back issues, and 74, man. That's the era of comics that I like. Like basically the Bronze Age. So it's 1970 to 1985. That's my favorite era of comics. I cannot wait to get there because we're in for a treat with some of those stories. But yeah, so here we go with the origin of Adam Warlock. He's created by these scientists to be the perfect living specimen, and instead they have a good. I guess they have a noble goal, but the ends don't justify the means, or the way they're gonna get there isn't great, I suppose. So yeah, that's the big deal with this issue. The first appearance of Adam Warlock as him. So that was really cool to read. I never read it before. And guys, that's it. So actually went a little bit shorter this time. So we don't have an hour and a half video this time. It's only an hour. It's just hard for me to talk briefly about all of these because I just love comic books and I could just talk about them all day long. I always thought Adam was made by alien beings. I thought that, but I guess not. If you watch the end credits of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, maybe you could think maybe that's why. I thought that too, though. I thought I knew he was created, and because I knew about the cocoon and all that stuff. So I knew he was not born, but created. I knew that much from I knew that happened in the comics. I didn't know he was created by humans, though. So yeah, I'm with you there. So it was cool to finally read that. And I guess he's able to. It's just weird how he becomes this such cosmic level entity because he was created by humans. That's a little bit weird. But again, that's the beauty of reading comics this way, is because we're going to read. It's going to take several weeks and several months and several years. But we're going to read through. Eventually, we're going to read through all of that. So I think that's going to be cool. So. But that's it for this, guys. That's it for this week's episode. Next week, like I said, I'll be talking about comics from November 1967. I've already read a couple of them. I already read Amazing Spider-Man 54. I posted about that yesterday. I read and posted about Tales of Suspense number 95 today. So if you want to, read these things along with me as I post them, follow either of these accounts right here, _Comics Daily on Twitter, _Comics Daily IG on Instagram. I had to put the underscores. I wish I didn't, but I had to put them to get some kind of a unique name. But either one of these accounts right here will, I'm posting about these comics every single day. Send you a message on IG. Okay, cool. I will, man. I'll check it out. But guys, I appreciate you watching. I appreciate hanging out. And I will be back next Monday with next month's worth of comics. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.